And so the job, trying to find work in those spaces is complicated. And, our job at Unlock is try to support employers to have policies and practices in place that don't discourage people with criminal records from applying, and create workplaces and conditions in work that make them feel safe too. And the other part is to help people present themselves in the best way with disclosure statements. How do they explain their crime and explain their journeys in ways that make sense to people?
Mhm.
And another part of my job is to create awareness of the difficulties, and to try to encourage people to enter into conversations about their attitudes towards people who come out of prison, and what their social responsibilities towards giving people a fair chance to start again might be.
Yeah, indeed. You were in a prison reform trust
I was, yeah.
before, just before you went to Unlock. What are the main things that need to be reformed about prison?
Oh God, how long have you got, Chris?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
How long have you got?
Yeah,
It's such a, I mean, it's all in the press, isn't it? We know the facts, don't we? That there's overcrowding. There are too many people. Our prisons are bursting to the seams. There's not sufficient staffing. That with so many people in prison, it's creaking. It's creaking with the pressure. Just like the NHS is creaking with the pressure.
yeah.
My daughter's in hospital today. She's sitting in a corridor since 8 o'clock last night, and it's what's nearly 24 hours. She hasn't even
Oh,
got a bed yet. Um, Places, our public services are creaking as well. So this is not making a special case for prisons, but it's making a special case for prisons in the sense that, why are we spending all this money to lock people up if there's nothing good happening behind the walls? And some prisons are doing good work. Listen, this is not, I'm not against prison staff. I'm saying it's under-resourced and there's too many people, and we need to reorganize it. And I think the government reviews that have been published recently, the sentencing review, the courts review, they're pointing us to radical changes in the way that we understand the purpose of imprisonment, what we want from it, and how it should be organised. So if you ask me straight away, top things from me, there are many women in prison who don't need to be there. Women committed non-violent. There's so many. Yeah. So let's start with young people. Let's start with young people.
yeah,
They've been very successful about driving down the numbers of young people who go to prison, because they've been diverting them out of the prison system earlier. We need to take that approach to everybody. Like, let's divert as many people out of prison, because I've talked to you about the long-term harm it causes. The criminal record. Let's try and avoid it at all costs. Intervene earlier. Intervene early. I think the answers to prison are sort of outside of prison in a way. They're
yeah,
like, intervene earlier, intervene in schools, intervene in teenage years. Where's the youth clubs? Where's the youth diversion activities? Where's the opportunities? How do we drive people into work and meaningful work? How do we create good housing for people? How do we make our young people be able to have, like, look at the waiting list for social housing. How do we create accessible housing? How do we create good qualities of life for people
mhm,
so that crime is not appealing?
yeah,
How do we treat people's mental health earlier? How do we educate people about drugs? How do we create options for people to get into recovery earlier, into rehabs earlier? That a lot of, if you did all of that, then we
yeah, yeah,
wouldn't need prisons, because prisons are full of people with lots of issues, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
the issues that are driving them into prison. So the answers are outside. So for me, that's where we should concentrate our efforts. And in terms of prison, we should reserve prison for the gravest of crimes. Literally, I think there is a place. I'm not an abolitionist, so to speak. I'm talking about, there's a place for prisons, but prisons need to be then if you're holding people in punishment because they're not safe to be in the community, there's generally something wrong with them. So
Mhm.
how are we then responding to that? And how are we creating the therapeutic programs that really help? There's a prison called Grendon. It's the only therapeutic prison in the country. It's near Oxford. And I've met people who've gone to Grendon and they have years of therapy. And they're some of the most sorted people, mentally sorted and robust and stable people that I've ever met because they've had intense therapy, lived in a
Mm.
therapeutic community for years, where they've had to practice service and honesty and responsibility to their community whilst they live in that community. And they retain those skills when they come out. So for me, if we're keeping prison, it's got to be deeply therapeutic. And I think there are lots and lots of ways we can divert people out of the prison system. So, for instance, the other day, the guys cut down the tree on
Oh, yeah.
Hadrian's Wall. Disgraceful act of vandalism, like disgraceful. And they've got 4 odd years in prison each for it. For me, I would say, well, what is, yeah, it serves our national, we're all nationally disgusted by that. I think, well, you're crazy. Like, that's crazy behavior. Like, it's disgraceful. It's not a joke. You're damaging a national landmark. Like, so I'm outraged as a member of the public. In my hat as the chief executive, I'd say, but you know what? What would have been a better resolution there? That they did 4 years of community service, planting trees all
Yeah,
along
yeah, yeah.
Hadrian's Wall, growing saplings in the National Trust nursery. They had to volunteer their time, yeah,
Mm.
building building back the damage that they did. Because I don't think they're doing that again, would you? If they actually had to spend years growing saplings, planting saplings,
Mm.
and looking after a nursery of trees. So this is what I'm saying. Sometimes we've got to have, for me, I understand the need to. I just I'm so angry. I just want them out of the way.
Yeah.
But that's costing us money. it's,
Yeah,
it's
indeed.
costing us 60,000 a year to keep somebody in jail, roughly. Yeah, I'd rather they were forced to get up in the early morning in the snow at Hadrian's Wall and plant trees.
Mm.
I literally think that would be, for me, deeper punishment, but also restorative. So I think we just need, I would like us to think about how we can make community punishments feel transformational for the community, healing for the community, and also drive home the message deeper that this isn't tolerated.